Rusted Metal, Batman. It's the Comic Lyra podcast is back.
Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Yeah, I slightly surprised you with that intro.
Yeah.
You weren't all too ready to begin, but now we're back.
I've had a day.
You've had a day. I've experienced some of that day.
Mm.
But now we are here to forget all our problems and dive into the deep, mysterious world of Frank Miller's Batman.
Yeah, I suppose this is an episode out of time, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a banked episode for the future. So we are in the past right now. If you're listening to this,
the future's coming up real quick, though.
Yeah, future's here and now. But now we're stepping even further in the future with a Batman in the future. So it's kind of appropriate, all things considered.
It's old man Batman, isn't it?
It's old man Batman, and this is interesting as well because last week, when the listeners hear this, we'll have done the Frank Miller Daredevil issue, the single issue of him playing Russian roulette with Bullseye. Which for anyone who's listening to them in order, or even if you listen as they come out, thank you, first of all. But that was last week to them. That was a weird amount of time for us because we don't know if we do these in order or what they're going to release in order or whatever.
I don't even remember recording that. I remember liking it.
Well, that's good enough. But yeah, now we're doing what I would say is probably not only the most well-received and highest regarded Frank Miller piece of comic book work.
Yeah.
But this is our completion of a trilogy, almost, because we're only doing the first two issues. We're only doing the first half of The Dark Knight Returns. But this is us starting to finish our completion of the graphic novel Holy Trinity in the 80s, when people were like, are comic books actually like an art form?
Yeah, so Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, and
Mouse.
Oh shit, really?
Well, again, it's not like a hard and fast, strict kind of rule thing. Those all came out around similar times in the late 80s, and that's when people went like, oh, comic books are like actually a thing and not just for kids. Like,
we should redo our Mouse episode.
We could definitely do a better for sure.
Mate, it was like the second or third episode.
I think it was the fifth, but still early enough we were awful.
Yeah, we just didn't really know what we were doing yet.
And also, I always see like the download numbers because I'm checking them all the time because, you know, when the number goes up, dopamine hit. So I'm always looking at them. But what I always find funny is when I can see when someone's listening to, they've gone back and they've listened to All in Order. Yeah. And firstly, thank you. Like, we love your interest. We love the fact that we can entertain you with this podcast. Please don't go back to episode 1. There's no need to go back that far. You can like give it like 10 or 15 episodes at least after that. I think we start here somewhat more of a stride.
We started to get better after that Barely Literate episode.
Yeah, whenever that was. But also the first episode, which was Why the Last Man, when we did that, is one of our highest downloaded because luckily for us, people like, oh, this is a podcast I might check out. Yeah. I'll start at number 1. Don't do that.
No.
You don't need to do that at all.
Jump in with the most recent one.
Yeah.
You'll miss some of the in-jokes, but they're not even that funny.
No. And they don't require that much in knowledge, really.
No. Like, something was said once and it just keeps getting repeated. That's essentially the depth of our in-jokes.
Yeah. The ones I can list off the top of my head right now are, I referred to things as the prime example several times.
Yeah. Alan Moore.
Alan Moore is a wizard. You sometimes read the comic and sometimes not, and they have to guess whether you did or not.
There was the whole blank room era.
Yeah, we forgot about that. It's done now, it's gone.
There's the forgotten episode.
Yeah. You may or may not have multiple girlfriends.
Oh, fuck off.
I'm saying it's a running joke. Like, I'm acknowledging that it's not real. So you should appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anyway, point being, we're now completing that. We are not now completing. We will, as of next week, when we do the second part, have completed that kind of trilogy.
Yeah.
So, Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, again, one of the most seminal comic books of all time. I would, on par, I think you have a better reference for this, on par with The Killing Joke. Like, people look at this and The Killing Joke as like the two biggest, most eponymous Batman interpretations.
Have we talked about The Killing Joke?
Yeah, we did it.
Did we?
I'm pretty sure we did now. We do a lot, so it's understandable to forget.
I've certainly read it.
Yeah, you've definitely read it. We definitely covered it. I think we did a little marathon because we did that around similar time as Watchmen. That's the one where
we looked at both versions, didn't we?
Yes.
The original version and the updated one.
Exactly.
Gonna be honest with you, this could definitely do with having somebody redraw it.
That's interesting. What about general thoughts overall? What was your general experience of reading these first two issues, the first half of this comic series?
I liked it.
Good. It wasn't quite like an all-star Superman. You were like, why do people like this? It wasn't that.
No. I understand why people like this. I can understand why people like this. I can understand why it's highly regarded. I don't necessarily think it's aged particularly well, but also I can see why in 1986, this was like
big deal.
Yeah, exactly. I can see why this was such a big deal in the mid 80s. Back when people in Britain were still like eating raw porridge for breakfast and masturbating to Noel Edmonds on a black and white TV. Like I get.
You don't do that anymore?
Not often. Not as often as I used to.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about this is a larger, bigger picture thing. Do you ever have it where older people will recommend you something, or even someone who's really into a thing will recommend you an old thing, but they'll say, oh, this was huge when it came out, like it defined the genre and it like influenced everyone who came after, like that kind of thing. And then you watch or listen to or experience or whatever, and you go, well, it seems old hat to me now because I grew up on the things it influenced. So now I'm watching an older, less good version of the things it influenced by being so amazing at the time.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what's happened here.
And this especially because this is like one of the most adapted like Batman stories because they keep using it for several things like films and games.
Well, isn't this the one that the Christopher Nolan films are loosely based on?
Yeah, the third film, which they literally called The Dark Knight Rises, and this is The Dark Knight Returns. So yeah, this influenced a lot. The Batman v Superman, that Batman was an older Batman who was in it. Hadn't quite retired or anything, but still that kind of like, you know, like, oh, I'm done with it now kind of thing. And I need someone to remind me what I'm fighting for again, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, even to the point where in the Nolan one, he had like a limp and he had to put a thing on to sort out his leg, which then somewhat happens in this as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very influential. So I can see why if you read this now, you're like, oh, this stuff I've experienced, this kind of stuff already.
And this is it. It just feels a bit bread and butter. It feels like, oh, this is a Batman
But this
story.
is when they invented the bread and butter.
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I suppose it's really challenging because I am over familiar with Batman now.
Yeah.
I've read quite a lot of Batman. In the past 2 years that I've been doing this podcast, I've consumed a lot of Batman content because we talk about Batman at least every couple months.
Yeah.
And so to me, this just feels like Batman content. Now, what sets it apart is that it's very earnest. It's very, very earnest. It takes itself very seriously, which, to be honest with you, I find a bit cliche.
There's a couple of moments of levity along the way.
There are a couple of moments of levity, but for the most part, it takes itself very seriously. And my other issue, and I think this is where we should start, is that the art is kind of horrible.
I'm somewhat in agreement with you. I think it's going to be interesting to talk about. Before we kick off the art, just to note that this was, as I said, written by Frank Miller. What's interesting is it's illustrated by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. And I think that's so interesting because this is kind of very famous Miller art when it was good. But also when he did Daredevil, the series like just before this that we did that issue for last week when this comes out, that was purely Miller. So I think style-wise, to compare to, this is very Miller style.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated to think what this person, Klaus Janson,
actually did.
Did they literally just do the man hour or the work to continue his style? So it was like, can you do this sheet like for me? Or can you do this page for me?
Yeah.
And he just recreated Miller's style? Or was there some collaboration and that's why it's, you know, so well regarded as an entire comic? Like, I think that's interesting. It's one of those things we're not going to know. Like, I generally try to look up and I see Klaus like, here he is with this panel from the Dark Knight Returns. And I'm like, did he draw that panel? Did he like advise on it?
What was his actual role?
Exactly.
Because this feels very Frank Miller. Now, this isn't as bad as the bad Frank Miller art that I've seen.
No. And what's interesting about that is, like, everyone is general agreement that Frank Miller art fell off after a certain point. The reasons for it, like, we generally don't know. There's loads of speculation, which I don't want to get into. There's, like, things that may or may not have happened in his personal life, and I don't want to start speculating without knowing anything for sure. The only thing I can say for sure is that coincides with when his art started to drop off, and his writing to a degree as well. He was in New York during 9/11. And I think that is like that coincides
with it. It's a big moment for a lot of people.
Exactly. You can imagine being in that and that being like really affecting, traumatic, like all that kind of stuff.
So The art.
Yes.
It's doing one thing really well and then other things really badly in a way that's really kind of interesting. I don't like it. I don't think it looks good. I don't think it looks visually appealing. The face work is horrible. There's so much blank expression. I don't think he draws anyone other than Batman well, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
He draws Commissioner Gordon okay. Like Jim sometimes looks all right, quite distinguished. But what he does really well is compose a good panel.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's sort of like, I don't like the art itself, and I don't like the way anything's drawn. I don't like the style of the art. I think for the most part, it's quite badly drawn, but then it's really well composed. And so the panels sort of, in terms of where he's putting shapes in the panel and where things fall in the panel and where your eye is drawn around this comic book as you scan through it, I think it's overall really well composed. I just don't like the art. And I think I'm not surprised that at a certain point Frank Miller forgot how to draw, because if I'm being honest, he wasn't a great artist to start with, in my opinion.
Here's the thing, from what little research I could see and do, apparently in like the early 80s and for a lot of like his Daredevil run, he was considered like a pretty good artist in the sense that he could do the house style at the time. Like, he was a competent enough artist that he could do art that everyone went, yep, great.
Yeah.
And again, the discussion is, has he intentionally veered away from what's considered like house style or competent, and is in a truly artistic way just doing what he likes solely? Like, he's not not following any of the traditional rules of art. He's just doing what he likes.
So are you suggesting that he was... Well, because he must have remained capable of drawing to this degree.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It was a speculative, it was a gradual like shift. And again, whether it was intentional or not intentional, that's where the speculation is.
Do you think it was a matter of taste then? Do you think
be.
He actually just started drawing what he found appealing and what he found attractive, which, to be clear, is kind of fuck ugly?
Well, that's that. Again, I'm not arguing the point. I'm saying, like, I'm speculating like that is just as possible a scenario as he just got worse.
And we've established that I'm a big fan of artful ugliness.
Yeah.
I don't You
don't just like aesthetic nice stuff.
I don't solely dislike things because they're ugly.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't need everything to be aesthetically beautiful. I just need it to feel purposeful, and I need to... I mean, it's so subjective, and I'm not an art critic.
Really? Could have fooled me.
Yes. But I just find this to be so inconsistent, and in parts really badly drawn, and then every once in a while there'll be a panel that I think is really actually quite good. I'm just so unsure on the art on this, but overall I do not like it, and I know that this has been celebrated for its art, hasn't it?
Yeah, and again, like we've said for a lot of this kind of stuff, for very specific panels have become iconic. More so, I think, in the second half, which, a whole other thing we'll get to. But even like just the front cover of this, like that in itself is a iconic kind of look. And
I think the front cover's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a very Miller-esque composite of a person, is it? It's very blocky, it's very chunky.
Yeah.
But again, the overall composition of the page and the simplicity of it just works really well as well. I'll read you my exact 2 notes about the art just to get across, and then to explain a little further why this is. 2 notes I made were, 1, it's grey, dark, and sad, which fits the context. So I think it, like, contextually, it represents accurately what the vibe of the story is. And the other one is, I really like the art and I can't explain why. Like, I agree with all the points. I agree with all the points you're making. Like, I see it, like, literally as I'm looking at it. As best I think I can describe, I think going into this right now, one, I've read this already, like, years ago.
Yeah.
I also have seen an animated movie of it, which is a really good animated movie.
Does it look similar?
No, it's like its own. If you imagine a house style of DC animation, like animated movies, it's that. Executed really well, like translated very well. With some, you can still see the Miller-esque, again, blocky, chunky people, like especially in Batman. But I've had experience with this story. I revere it in the same way that a lot of comic book fans do. Like that kind of like The Dark Knight Returns by Miller. Oh my God, like that.
Yeah.
So now rereading it and looking at the art now, my problem is, do I enjoy the art because of just enjoying the art for what it is, or am I positively associating the art with this story that I really enjoy and everything that's come after it and how it's influenced everything?
So oftentimes when I really don't like the art in something, oftentimes when I have a really strong opinion on the artwork in a comic book, I will come in really hot. It's like, this is foul, it's hideous, it's this, it's that, it's the other. And there have been many occasions, you can go back through the past 5 episodes and probably find an example of me getting angry about artwork. And I don't think this is good, but again, I can see that to somebody whose taste it tickles, this would be attractive. It's so firmly stylized that I'm not surprised that there is an audience for it. Neither am I surprised that you happen to be the audience for it.
Yeah.
It's one of those where there's some comic books where the art is just so poor, where I've even challenged you on why you enjoy it. Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes,
being a really great example of that.
And the point we got to at the end was just I wasn't as affected by the things that negatively affected you, ultimately.
Whereas here I don't like this, but I wouldn't challenge you on it because it's so, as I say, it's so firmly stylized that I can see that actually if you enjoyed it, I can see why you would have enjoyed it.
The only thing I would challenge on any as a positive of it is that every page and every panel is interesting. Even with all the criticisms of it,
I fully agree with you.
It draws you in.
I fully agree with you. It's, although to my eyes not good, it is visually striking.
Yeah. And we've had that before with things like, I mean, we had to tie in with Frank Miller, his Man Without Fear run with John Romita Jr. All the same criticisms of Romita Jr.'s work, but it just worked.
But it did. It worked, didn't it?
Because it was interesting, even with all the criticisms.
Same with Frank Miller's Daredevil run.
Yeah.
I didn't think the art was consistently good.
I think his Daredevil drawing was way better than this.
I definitely think it was better. Yeah. The panel to panel, the artwork was better. Again, still had issues. That Elektra, pretty bad.
Was that the Cold Day in Hell one, or was that so the only one we've read from his original run was the Bullseye in the Room and Born Again, which I don't think Elektra's in it. I think you're thinking of the Elektra from Cold Day in Hell, which was the this year release.
I am, yeah.
Which I still very strongly suspect was a Frank Miller homage to his worst artwork.
Yeah, no.
She looked awful in that.
But again, the Daredevil run had the same thing that the Bullseye Daredevil.
Yes.
With him in the hospital.
Yeah.
It did the same thing that this did, which is that it was very well constructed. And whilst I don't rate Frank Miller much as an artist, I do think he had a great eye for composition. And I think that may be what people see in this without realizing it.
And you think even regardless of how the art is, it's just drawing your eye in. So you can't help but, again, have that kind of confusing, like, do I like it? Like, do I think it's good when you're engaging with it?
But it's because there's something really good about it.
Yes.
And what's really good is the way he composes each panel. The panels are all really well composed. And so even though I don't like the actual content of each drawing necessarily, I have to respect it for the fact that this is a very well composed comic book. And there are comic books that I've seen where like the individual figures and the individual drawings are very good, but the panels aren't well composed.
Yeah.
And so it ends up feeling lackluster.
Or sometimes normally it's a very standard basic panel layout where you're just kind of bored almost. So like you can look at an individual panel and be like, oh, that looks nice, but you're not having that same kind of like scanning the page, what's happening next, like turn the page, like, oh my God, like you're not having that same kind of build up and enthusiasm for it.
And we see that often enough that it's not even noteworthy when we do.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very big criticism, like the most mid slop that comes from the big two just all the time.
Yeah. Whereas this, at least it is visually striking. I don't necessarily like the art, but I like the way it's composed. And so the artwork wasn't illegible or unreadable.
There's some parts where I almost struggle to make out what the thing is.
Yeah.
Which, as we've said before, like readability, that's like one of the big, if you don't get that right, it doesn't matter what else you do.
Yeah.
And there are some problems like that here. And yet, even when bits are hard to determine what they actually draw and like what is it you've actually put on this page, it's still very interesting and it's still engaging and the fact that I'm trying to work out what it is because I'm following the story, like it almost then goes to show how not good the art is, but how interesting the art is where you don't mind trying to work out what it is he's fucking drawn, you know?
This is one of the things I love about this process in making this podcast, is that we come to something with the same criticisms, having looked at the same art, and yet we come to such different conclusions sometimes. And that's just so interesting, because ultimately what it often comes down to is, did I like it or not?
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And often that is what these conversations come down to, is that one of us will like something and the other one will not have liked it. And then we have a discussion about the relative reasons that we did and didn't like it. And then you get something like this where we both have similar, very valid criticisms of it, and yet one of us likes the art and one of us doesn't. But there's no argument here there's no argument for either of us to make that could convince the other.
Yeah.
Because it is purely a matter of taste, and actually we're looking at the same thing and intellectually we're viewing it from the same angle, but it just tickled your brain and didn't tickle mine. And I find that so interesting.
And the biggest thing as well is, I see your criticisms and you see what's working for me.
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. It's not
you're right. You are right. That's a much better way of articulating it.
We're not looking at a single thing and having different opinions on it. We're looking at all these elements with the same opinions on each. But I'm like, but these working for me work, and these inconsistencies and these bad things are what are more affecting your enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
And again, I have a weirder relationship with this than you do, of just revering this whole comic in itself.
Because I had not read this until this morning.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting as well, if you're going to have weird kind of art like this, like if you make it iconic, or if the story itself becomes very well known and revered and enjoyed for decades afterwards, if you have weird art like this, I think that even then works in its favor, because people are like, look at this panel. Like, it doesn't look like anything else in comics. Whereas if it was something that was made in the house style, would that, like a more competent, in quote marks,
would it be boring? Yeah.
Would it have had the same effect? Like, people remember these images more because comics don't look like this.
And you are right, it's never dull.
Exactly, yeah.
So getting into more content-driven stuff.
Well, I was going to do a segue with a kind of an in-between, a stepping stone subject.
That's what I was about to do.
Which is, I was going to talk about the panel layout.
Yeah.
But specifically in regards to, there's a heavy reliance on here of cutting to news or interview shows that give this bigger exposition of the wider world as it is right now. And on the one hand, it's a really difficult one, because they're always interesting. Like, again, the thing we can say about this entire comic is it's always interesting. It's never boring. With this kind of stuff, those are the points where I'm like, I'm scanning a little quicker. I'm not maybe taking in as much.
I agree. But the point I was about to make is that I'm really glad I've read this comic, because so much of what happens here wasn't a convention before Frank Miller did it, and now it's become a convention, i.e. cutting to news pieces, cutting to talking head pieces. Comic books use this as a device a lot now. I
even like films and TV. And it'd be really interesting to kind of pinpoint when that became a thing, because it could be this.
Because we've read a lot of stuff from before this, and I don't remember seeing anything that did it.
Yeah.
Whereas particularly Batman and Superman, and Spider-Man to a degree for some reason, there's often a focus on news media and the way that they are presenting the heroes.
Around the similar time, or similar within a couple of years, Watchmen, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think on the one hand, there's a lazier version of it, and there's a not less lazy, but more appropriate for the information they're conveying. Sometimes the lazy version is, in other words, Scorpion escaped from prison. He'd been locked up previously by Spider-Man, but now he's escaped again, and maybe he'll be looking for revenge on Spider-Man. Something based like that. It's like, you could have got that. You didn't need to cut to a whole nother medium within the story to tell that information. This and Watchmen both do it in more of a global tensions as they are right now in the story, or how do the public feel about that, you know?
And the other thing is, there are instances where we see the events as they happen, and then we see the way they're portrayed in the news media.
Yes.
And that's the other thing that we see. And I think it gives us a really potent look at the story, and it sets up a very particular relationship between Commissioner Gordon, Batman, and the news media. And
the general public as almost like a fourth character in that.
Yes.
Like how they're feeling.
Absolutely. And that is something that I think is quite nuanced.
Yeah.
And it's presented to us in such a way that it adds a really lush level of detail to the comic book that I think is even sometimes lacking from modern comic books when they try and do the same thing. I think he captured something really particular. Again, we are now sort of even past the point of TV news being relevant. And so actually it's almost, you couldn't even really do this anymore. Now it would have to look a bit different.
Nowadays, the very modern version from like the past kind of 10-ish years or so is
social media.
It'll cut to like shorts, like people recording vertical on their phone reactions to or filming stuff, and you hear their narration over the top or whatever.
But again, there has been a democratization of media, and what they often tend to focus on is independent people creating content and kind of sleuthing and getting in there.
Yeah.
Whereas what this is showing us is, and I think the fact they use the same TV reporter quite consistently here, it shows the news media as this monolithic thing and with a narrative. Yeah, exactly. And so we now live in an age where that still happens to a lesser or greater degree.
Never stopped.
But there is also now a more democratized media that exists, which is just people sort of, making their own decisions. And so this
do
is
your own research.
Yeah, absolutely.
As they say.
And so I think that's a really interesting kind of undercurrent thing that happens in this comic book a lot. There are a few of these talking head pieces that, again, have not aged well. But this is a what? 39-year-old comic book?
86.
So this will be 40 next year.
Yes.
It's quite an old thing. But there is one panel where they're interviewing somebody for the news, and he says, Batman, yeah, I think he's A-okay. He's kicking just the right butts. Butts the cops ain't kicking, that's for sure. Hope he goes after the homos next.
Yeah.
And it's just things like that where I don't think Frank Miller was homophobic.
No,
I don't think Frank Miller wanted us to have a takeaway from that, which is being gay is bad.
No.
I think he was showing us a very right-wing arsehole getting behind Batman for all the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's little things like this in older pieces of work that for some people in a modern audience would be a bit jarring.
But then all you need to do to make a modern update version is chop and change one piece. So the modern version will be, hope he goes after illegal immigrants next. It's just changing whoever the narrative bad people are in any decade or year.
Isn't that right?
But that's, I think, the point. How it quickly is. He's not musing on the pros and moralities of homosexuality or anything. He's just presenting a guy who's like, who are we mad at now? Yeah, hope he gets them next. That's all it is. And as well, there's a really... So before I get on this next topic, I thought of a funny thing earlier. I thought I'll let you say complete your thought before I say it, because this is not important at all, but it is funny. In terms of shorts, using shorts media for stuff.
Yeah.
There was a hilarious bit in the Justice League film, which came about because Henry Cavill was meant to return as Superman, but I think it was Paramount. He was doing Mission Impossible. They needed him to have a mustache for it.
Yeah.
So Paramount were like, Justice League were like, we need him to... Paramount were like, we need him to keep the mustache for the film. And then Warner Brothers were like, let him shave the mustache off. We'll cover the cost to CGI it on in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Here's an example of the technology. We can do it. Here's how good it looks. You can't even tell the difference.
So why wouldn't they just CGI it off him for their film?
That's what they fucking did. That's what they did. And there's a short in the Justice League film where these kids are like, Superman, hey, Superman, you just saved the people. What's going on? And it rises up to show Henry Cavill, and the top of his lip looks awful, genuinely ridiculous, a big mesh of CGI'd skin tone that's twice as big as his actual distance between his lip and his nose, and he's like, well, truth, justice, and the American way. And entire audience is like, what's wrong with his face?
Oh man!
All because Paramount were like, nope. Literally, Paramount were just like, fuck you, Warner Brothers. That's why they were like that.
So was he filming both at the same time or something?
He would need to reshoots for Justice League. So that's how it came about.
Oh, so it was reshoots for Justice League, but he was in the middle of... So he was in contract with Paramount at that time, and Justice League needed him back for something.
Yeah, or even, for all I can remember, it could even be the Paramount were like, we might need to do reshoots. It could have been as finicky as that. But it's just so funny that it literally came down to two titans of media being like, keep his mustache, shave it off.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill's mustache.
I mean, do you prefer Cavill with or without a mustache is the question.
This is when it comes to stuff like this, right? When people are like, would I look good in the thing they're wearing, or does this look good, or is a bald attractive, or all those conversations, like, are you hot or not? That's what it comes out. So when he's like, would you prefer Henry Cavill like this or this? Like, he's gonna look a 10 out of 10 either way. It's irrelevant to even discuss it.
Henry Cavill is a deeply attractive man. It doesn't matter what he does with his facial hair.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a short.
I saw that's why I mentioned it all. This is not for the short, but it's just, I saw a meme. A meme encompassed that for me, where it was literally just two women standing behind a hot bald guy, and a woman going, I love bald guys, and then it cuts to the guy behind him who is bald and fat, and it's like, oh, I ate too much chili. Like, I like hot guys. Right, so back to the serious stuff.
Yeah.
I think what's one thing I noticed about this, and it really helped having recently read that Daredevil comic, which we keep coming back to, but it's also one of the best single issues of comics of all time. So, and a Frank Miller other bit. What I noticed here was there was a big reference to how superheroes influence the general public. And not just in their kind of thoughts and stuff, but it cuts to when Batman has returned. Spoilers, he returns in The Dark Knight Returns in The Dark Knight Returns.
Does he?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. There are people who literally are inspired by him to go out and do their own version of Vigilante, and it just goes awful for each of them. And what's interesting is, in the Daredevil comic we read, he's telling Bullseye this story about a kid that was influenced by him, and it goes badly for him as well.
It was clearly something Frank Miller was thinking about, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Which is that what would actually happen if you had these heroes out in the real world, and you would get copycats.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting here is, I think before this time, because the 80s was maybe the establishment aren't so good, and maybe like the established norms, there's more complexity to them, and maybe things aren't as, black and white as we were told in the 70s because of Vietnam and all that stuff.
Well, I think that sense was quite prevalent in the hippie community in the 1960s and 70s. And then
they grew up to become comic book writers. People who were influenced as kids became comic book writers and artists.
Yeah, absolutely. But also people who in their teens and 20s had been to war in Korea and Vietnam were now coming of age and they're adults. And it was like, well, actually, America sent me on two really pointless wars in Asia. Why?
Yeah.
And so, I think in the 80s, you do see a skepticism of the established order in the US that hadn't maybe been present before.
Yeah. And I think especially interesting here, whenever I think there were this kind of subject in the early 80s or 70s, when a superhero interacted with a member of the public, either it was someone they inspired, and they were like, make sure to eat your vegetables and your vitamins and say your prayers and truth, justice, the American way and all that. Or the other extreme was they became a villain. But that was on them. Like do you remember the really old Superman one where someone was like, I'm gonna get a ray gun and fire at Superman or something because he wasn't nice to me or whatever. He was busy. Whereas here we don't follow the story. They're not important really in this grand scheme of things. We just see a brief snippet of they were inspired by Batman returning, as he does in this comic, and a guy put on a random mask and went to a restaurant and tried to shoot a gangster and just got shot immediately. Like those kind of, or one guy gets really crazy with the filth on the street and stuff like that. And I think there you
get very Rorschach.
Yes. Oh yeah, really. At a similar time. Yeah. But again, you have that complexity of here's a person who is rising up to battle against and fight and defeat who we deem as bad. But then just as equally, you could have someone on the street. It's like, well, I think these people are bad, so I should do the same. I had a kind of complex thing with this where there's a really iconic Captain America speech from Civil War. And I do not know off by the top of my head. It's a long
speech.
Do you not? I know, right?
Why are we even here?
Just shut the podcast down now.
Yeah,
my credentials are absolutely ruined.
Oh, Alan Moore never came on and Ryan didn't know Captain America's speech from Civil War.
Just cut it off. Just stop it now.
Yeah.
Pack it in, lads. Pack it in. But the general tone of it is, because Captain America is rebelling against the Superhero Registration Act and all that stuff, and he gives this speech, I think, to Spider-Man or someone else. But the speech is basically when the entire world is telling you you're wrong, but you know in your gut that, you need to stand up for this thing. The entire world is telling to move. It's up to you to plant your feet down and say, no, you move. Yeah. And it's inspiring. It's they're fighting against the establishment for what you believe is right. But even when I first read it, my thought was anyone could spin this for their own means.
Yeah.
Like whatever they think is right, it could be the worst stuff ever to believe in. But they're like, well, Captain America stood up for what he believed in, so I'm going to,
And it comes back to what I was saying earlier, isn't it? That guy was saying, Batman's getting rid of he's kicking the right butts. Hope he does it to the homos. And it's like, well, no, Batman isn't interested in that. Batman's not a homophobic piece of shit.
Yeah.
But you have now used him as a blank canvas to imprint your own shitty level of morality on.
Yeah, no, exactly. And again, it's just that very, from a neutral aspect, it's fight against the people who you think are bad. Like anyone can adopt that thinking, and that's the problem almost.
And I think this comic book does a really good job of kind of having that conversation in the background whilst we're being presented with a main story.
Yeah.
Through the news articles and, the kind of change in conversation about Batman's return, and then the new commissioner making him essentially enemy number one, sort of halfway through issue 2. I think it does a really succinct job of having that conversation about what they think the kind of morality of it would be, whilst not throwing that down your throat or making it the primary focus of the story, which is still
Batman returning.
Yeah, and it's an action-adventure story about an older Batman returning. I think it brings some of the more hard-boiled noir elements.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Back into the franchise, which had been missing for maybe a decade.
I think it came back with a force in the 80s. Because the 80s were like 70s Silver Age. Everyone was like, it's all bright and shiny and stuff. And it's like, what if it was dark and black? And everyone's like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, what if our noir story about a detective was actually a bit noir?
It's noir with a 80s at the time modern edge.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
Which is just, updating every kind of genre and style, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's really sort of impactful, and it's what has become the core of most Batman stories for 40 years following it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
We're not even really in a position where people are reinventing what a Batman story is, and I think that's evident in the Absolute Batman series, which ultimately is
absolutely Ultimate's the other one.
You interrupted my freaky
You left a
flow.
big enough gap. I was like, should I say it? And you didn't talk for like 5 seconds. I was like, I'm going to get it in.
It was a thoughtful gap.
It's like when you're driving and someone gets in. It's like, I was leaving the 2 chevrons to keep safe. You shouldn't have gone there.
But the Absolute Batman series is, and I'm going to finish this thought, and I'm going to use the word ultimately again, so you need to just be prepared for that, is...
I won't say anything.
Ultimately, a meditation on what a world that didn't have Batman would look like with Batman.
Yeah, essentially.
It's an updated origin story, yes, so it's not quite the same as this, but it is essentially a meditation on what a world with Batman looks like when we haven't had Batman. And this is, at its core, a meditation on what a world with Batman looks like once we've not had Batman for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Batman... I mean, the Absolute series is meant to be the freshest, most cutting-edge interpretation of this character, right? And really, it's doing something very similar to what was being done with the story 40 years ago.
Yeah, I think, and this could tie back to The Dark Knight Returns as well. The way I've always thought of it generally is when a superhero kind of suddenly turns up on the scene, and especially in a city that's now been ingrained in this fictional universe as one of the most crime-ridden, awful cities in the country or in the world, that before a superhero, either they start for the first time or they come out of retirement, things are just awful. And it's that kind of spurring of like why they come out or why they start in the first place is because things generally suck. I think for a lot of superheroes, it's like, wow, I just got my powers and I've got a personal vendetta against someone. I'm going to use my powers to get revenge or save someone or whatever. And then they're like, well, I guess I should just be a superhero from now on. Batman, like the core of Batman especially is Gotham fucking sucks. It's awful. There's crime everywhere. There's a big wealth gap, which so the rich are in the skyscrapers, they don't see it, but the poor are suffering down here. And I never want to let what happened to me happen to anyone else. And so it is kind of unique to Batman. So that's what I mean. It's no surprise that the Absolute one is doing it. Not even necessarily as a strict direct connection to The Dark Knight Returns. I think it's just core of Batman may or may not have been established by Dark Knight Returns. Like I'd have to read all the Batman that came before to be like, how bad was Gotham like before this era? Like, was it just gangsters with Tommy guns, or was it like as bad as it is now? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this clearly has codified a lot of what makes Batman now.
Even if it didn't start it, the fact that this did so well, the elements of this go on to become, so it's irrelevant whether it started him or not, it is codified him, as you said.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is interesting is that not only is this, to my mind, set a real precedent for Batman and what Batman looked like for literally nearly half a century thereafter.
I would say this is a very unique kind of Batman, because like this is known as the iconic Dark Knight Returns Miller Batman, where he is huge. I mean, it connects again to the absolute Batman. Like this is a Batman who is huge. He is wide. The Batman symbol on him is the thickest, most girthy Batman symbol you'll ever, let's say, by a mile.
He's a unit, isn't he?
It's very unique to this character.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that Batman's always flitted around between like big, strong, muscular, or lean, as like a guy who was like a martial arts expert would be, like a lean, thin guy who was very well trained and very fast moving and stuff. I think this was unique in the first time a superhero had retired and came back. But we've had in the running of just general superheroes existing, lots of times they will die or something will happen to them. Marvel or DC will try a new character to replace them. Be like, here's a new cool Batman, or here's a cool new Superman. And they don't like him. Bring the old one back. Bring the old one back. So there's a lot of them coming back, but the retirement was like a year maybe, or in real time. This could be, as far as we know, the first time that we've cut to a superhero who has chosen to stop for whatever reason and has chose to come back unretired. So I think it's interesting here that became a very common thing later on. Like I think it happened a lot of times since then. The most notable one I can think after that was like Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
In a similar way, he was in like a really fucked up like world at that point, and it's no wonder he stopped. But it's that same thing of like everything's worse now, and you've stopped being a hero. Maybe you should come back, and maybe we need you to come back, or maybe there's a motivation for you to come back.
But we like seeing older versions of characters we like.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We've had Old Man Logan. We've had an old man Peter Parker. We've had Peter Parker coming back in his 40s.
Spider-Man Reign, which was a really interesting one, to nicely put it.
And it's an idea that comic book writers keep revisiting because we as readers clearly like it. There's something really compelling. I mean, maybe part of it is that comic books do, to a certain degree, have a greying audience. We are all getting older.
I was kind of equate it more to the stereotype or the trope, should I say, nice way to put it, of the aging gunslinger from westerns.
Yeah.
Who's like, I hung up my rifle and my 6-shooters, and I don't do that anymore. It's like, but sir, the town needs your help. There's bandits coming. It's like, I guess I gotta get back on the saddle. I think that's like a very common humanistic kind of like, the person who was really good at it is coming back, like that kind of thing.
Maybe, yeah. No, I think you make a valid point. And then the actual story itself, if we're ready to get there.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, there will be spoilers from this point.
Yeah. The Dark Knight does, in fact, return. Number one.
Spoilers for a 39-year-old comic that has been revisited and adapted more than maybe any other comic.
Yeah.
So, not really spoilers, but
this is definitely the point where if you have somehow listened to this without reading or knowing the story of The Dark Knight Returns before, this is the point to read it. Not even like, I like it. I recommend it on quality. Even if someone else says it's bad and you believe their opinion more, I think this is essential reading to just see like what a comic like this is like and how it's influenced the character.
I don't like this comic as much as you do. Yeah. I would still recommend it based on quality.
Okay, yeah. Even so, yeah.
I don't necessarily like it, but I would absolutely recommend it based on quality. And I almost certainly would recommend it based on what I perceive to be its historical importance.
Yes, exactly. And also, we're still only talking about the first 2 issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Actually, I say I didn't like it. No, that's not right. I do like it.
Yeah.
I just see a lot of problems with it, and I see its flaws and its failings, but I like it and would recommend it and would read it again. And like, I would 100% in a few years' time may well find myself going, I might just reread The Dark Knight Returns, because it is good.
Yeah.
It's really quite good.
And things that become iconic, I think, have lots of criticisms. because they're the things that are good about them are so good that people just look past the criticisms. Whereas things that are 10s in every area are more likely to be bland or like appeases everyone likes it, no one loves it, that kind of stuff.
John Green, the author who wrote The Fault in Our Stars, once said that many books are unfairly forgotten. No book is unfairly remembered.
Yeah.
Like, books are remembered for a reason.
If they evoked a feeling, then that's all it needs.
Well, for a book to stay alive in the imagination of, the generation after the one that had it.
Yes.
For a book to still be read 40 years after it was written and to remain popular, that is an indicator in and of itself of quality. Like, books are unfairly forgotten, but people don't remember and keep bad books alive.
Yeah. I would say the closest that something can have is it might be unfairly hyped in the moment.
Yeah.
But like you say, if it's not remembered after the fact, then it's for a good reason.
Yeah.
But people will kind of talk about it. I think people sometimes will things to be good. Like, no, it is good. It's good. It's like, if you ask them a year later, they're like, oh, I haven't thought about the thing in a year. It's like, well, there you go then. That's the reason. So yes, read it. You should read it if you haven't read it, is what we're saying.
And we get so much content these days that everybody's always sort of asking you, have you seen the new thing that's on Netflix or whatever? And actually, something like this has stood the test of time in so many different ways.
Yeah.
It's become, part of the fabric of what it is to be a Batman story, but it's also the one that older comic book nerds recommend to people just getting into the hobby. And I think, it's been remembered in more than one capacity.
Yeah. It's very influential. And to the point where, like we said right at the top, it's one of the 3 comics that people went, oh, comics are like an art form that can actually invoke real feeling beyond just I hope the good guy beats the bad guy. Like, it's complex and it evokes discussions and it raises topics and questions, and this is how good it is.
So in terms of my feelings on the story,
yes,
I don't think there's a particular benefit on this episode of us just talking through plot points.
No, because
it's such an old story.
Yeah, it's the biggest points are the points that happen around. I mean, a lot of the story is the talking heads in the interviews and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slow burn, isn't it?
Yeah. Which also, in terms of panel layout, I think what's interesting is it intentionally has a very blank, mostly white page for those bits. Normally, when it cuts to TV interviews, like in modern comics, it's the same panel size.
Yeah.
But the panel is just the television with the interview on.
Yeah.
It almost kind of tells you, it's like, this isn't the story. This is ancillary information being told within the story. When it gets back to the real story, it's full panels again.
Yes.
And Frank Miller, as we know, he likes that white background to use for intentional means. Yeah. Whereas I think, as opposed to the white hospital room from Bullseye, the Russian roulette issue, I think this is all kind of this is TV, it's information. Like, you don't have to be like, what's happening? You just read along and just, get some information, and then we'll get back to the proper story.
I mean, you see the talking head, don't you?
Yes.
Like, you see the talking head, you know what's coming. I think in terms of the story itself, it's bread and butter.
I wouldn't say it's bread and butter, but make your point.
Batman is back. There is a criminal organization. We watch him systematically kind of work through that problem and start to get to the bottom of who these people are and how he can infiltrate and stop it.
Yeah.
I think Commissioner Gordon shooting that kid in the street was a huge plot point for me, and I found that really impactful. That
was one of the comical parts, that very small moments of levity, where it's like, Gordon has been shot, and you're you and the reader and the people listening to the radio are like, what? And it's like, sorry, Gordon was attacked and shot a person who was attacking him. Yeah. And it's like, you Miller, come on. I thought we were being serious here. I thought this was earnest.
Yeah, no, that was the one point that wasn't particularly earnest, wasn't it? But yeah, beyond that, I mean, I didn't think there was a lot going on, but clearly you have a different opinion, and I'm really intrigued to hear your opinion.
So from two aspects. One is, I think when you say bread and butter, again, the difference we're having is that this wasn't bread and butter when it came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's become after. The only other point is, I think you're right that it is by the numbers where he decides to come back, and it's fun in he's taking out all these criminals, and you don't see him yet. You just you see what he's doing, but you don't see him doing it. And then it reveals Batman is back. Look at him. Look how awesome he is, and all that. and then dealing with this gang, the mutant gang in it, who, very interesting, one of my favorite little tropes is when writers try and create a slang for like a future or a different world or whatever. Yeah. And it's so, I think what Miller did well here is it's so, like, it's not trying to be cool. It's so different and wild and crazy. Just like, maybe people, they do speak like that, like a mutant criminal gang in the future, you know?
The kids do speak a bit funny these days. Like, it does happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. But
you be Batman bad, Batman hurt Edgar. It's a bit crude, isn't it?
I think what I especially enjoy about it is this, I think they do a good job of the gang he's fighting now being a gang that back in his prime Batman days would be no issue at all. Yeah. And he gets over cocky, where he's like taking out these low level guys and he has little missteps. Like he's like, there's one point where I think is really good little detail where there's an older criminal amongst like a group that Batman has taken out. And he remarks, he says, I can hear him moving around now. Like it's literally like, this isn't the Batman who was like a shadow who people thought was possibly superpowered or inhuman.
You couldn't hear him.
He's like, I can hear him moving around. He's still like getting the better of us, but he's a human who's really good at this stuff, not a creature or a spirit.
He's not
or
a god.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's little bits like that, which I thought added more dimensions to this. And then when you get him failing to fight the mutant at the beginning, I thought how they laid out was like, again, the details where he's very important thing with this. There is narration from Batman. I think it's small enough amount. There's just his thoughts that just add an extra dimension and it's not just exposition.
Yeah, no, I actually thought that was really well done and really purposeful.
Yeah.
I found that to be really purposeful and really useful to the story.
And especially as he's his thoughts during the fight.
Yeah.
I think that's when he goes in over cocky and he's like, yeah, he's a big guy. And yeah, he's a bit fast, but like I can outwit him kind of thing. I can
deal with him.
And then it's as he's then getting his ass kicked and his shoulders fucked.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've made a meal out of this. This has all gone awfully. I'm going to die unless something miraculously happens. Unless a Deus Ex character happens, then I am fucked. And luckily, on the other side of the discussion we were having earlier about the influence Batman's having on people, his return influences a young girl to take up the Robin mantle.
And I was going to ask you about her because she's so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
What's her deal? Has she ever come back? Have we seen her again? What's going on?
If they've done anything with her afterwards, it's not been prominent enough that I've seen. I think she's only been in like the sequels to this story, which again are renowned for being awful.
Yeah.
So, but she is a very, very much a staple of this world in this universe.
She's great.
Yeah,
she's really
fantastic.
Cool.
And another bit of levity when she's out and about doing stuff with Batman, and it literally for 2 panels in the middle of the page cuts to not even her parents, but the space of the ceiling above her parents, where they're like, dinner was great. Wait, where's our daughter? Again, Miller's just like, little joke. Just a little joke.
Just a little bit funny. Just a little pepper it in.
Yeah. And it's still an overly earnest comic overall. Yeah. But yeah, she comes out and saves him, and he has to then think and be more tactical about it. So what I think is different is it's not just the bread and butter, I've come back, or I've lost a step, I believed in myself and I've come back now. Yeah. It's him being like, I need to be way more tactical now because I do not have the physical gifts that I took for granted when I was in my prime.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to be really smart about this. So then it gets to, not only does he go back and like think different about the fight, he orchestrates this entire setup for him to beat this guy, the leader of the mutant gang, who's just a big hulking mass of a man. But he also arranges it so that he works out that the mutants, the gang, are following his every word and whatever. They're like doing exactly as he says, and they're like works out that they will follow. They just need someone to follow.
Yeah.
So he orchestrates this, gets Carrie, I think her name is, to pretend to be a young mutant who is going to these gangs and being like, yeah, it's happening at the pipe or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we knew. They're like, yeah, we knew already. It's like, well, I guess we're going to the pipe then.
yeah, we knew. Yeah, we definitely knew what was going on.
And then orchestrates the release of the mutant leader who had just bitten the throat out of the mayor, which again, I think is an interesting bit of to talk about that larger thing about people taking influence from Batman's return. I think a very key point of that and a very real life version of it is when you've got weak establishment or weak leadership, people, that's what will then inspire people to look elsewhere for who to follow and who,
Absolutely.
And this mayor who's constantly on the fence about Batman, he's like, I don't know, it's fine or it's not fine. Because people they're divided about it.
And the people are divided about Batman. Yeah. There is a real sort of,
And that's, he as a fencer is less respectable than the people who even just who disagree with your opinion, but they're firm in it. You have more respect for them than you do the people who are like, whatever keeps everyone happy.
I mean, it's Jefferson and Burr, isn't it?
At least, at least he believed something.
I never agreed with a single thing that Jefferson said, but at least I know what he stood for.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So what's iconic to me, and I again, read it before, I know what's coming, I'm excited to get back to again.
Yeah.
Batman tricking the mutant leader into the mud pit,
and he pops out of the pipe and there's Batman ready to fight him. It's so cool.
And the thought of like the mud will he's big and he's fast, so the mud will slow him down. Now it's just all about technique and grappling, and that's what I've got him, because he's not trained at all,
and that's what Batman's good at.
And he's not doing punching or kicking, he's doing jujitsu. Like he's literally getting him in grapples and breaking his limbs and like one at a time. There's a great bit where the narration goes, there's something in me that tells me to stop as last leg. I ignore it.
Yeah.
So he just completely disables him. And
really cool fight scene.
Yeah, exactly.
That was probably one of the few points where I thought the art really sang.
Yeah, and it was all like grey mud and stuff. But
it was really cool.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
And the iconic line, which again, I'm not going to get verbatim because I didn't write it down, but it's just great nonetheless, is his shit talking in that moment. He says, "To you, this is a mud pit. To me, this is a surgeon's table, and I'm the surgeon."
Yeah.
And that's so cool, because it's not even trying to be overly cool.
Yeah.
It's just like,
he's just cool.
Yeah.
He's actually just cool.
It's not, I'm a badass, I'm going to kick your ass, and I'm the best and stuff. It's just telling him how it is. It's like, you've walked into my trap, and here's why.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to just take you out.
Absolutely.
And that's building up to that, and for that to evoke that emotion in me. And I think a lot of people who love this comic kind of get in it. Like, it's
a great third act.
Yes.
And a third act needs to make you feel something. And I think a third act in a superhero comic that makes you feel that feeling of like triumph.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, exactly that feeling, isn't it? It's impactful, and I think it had something to say while it was getting there. Like, he earned that moment of triumph. As Frank Miller earned that feeling in me, because just seeing a superhero win doesn't do it. I think having a bit of substance leading up to that is what you need for that moment to be impactful, and it was. Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for the second half.
Yeah.
That's the thing, it's left me excited for the second half, Ryan.
Genuine question, do you know what happens in the second half? Like, anything?
Does Bane break Batman's back?
No, way different comic.
I don't know.
There is a very iconic thing that happens in this, that is, I think, like most of, if not the entire fourth issue, which I'm very excited to talk to you about. And I'll even give you a little clue as it, because there's a couple of clues in this comic where it gets to. One thing, I've not said barely of my notes, but one to reinforce what you said. At one point, Gordon is like, being replaced and by a woman. I was like, all right, come on, all right.
Fucking
Gordon,
chill.
He's 70 in this. Like, he talks about, and to come back to your point earlier about the morality and who they're following, or influenced by looking for, people to lead them. He does a real poignant discussion about, is it Roosevelt during Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
And that's like, it's kind of on the nose, which is interesting, because the person he's talking to is like, why are you talking about this? It's like, I'm sorry, do you not get the metaphor that's happening right now? But he talks about how when Pearl Harbor just happened, most Americans were just scared and didn't know what to do. But the narrative, the historical narrative, is that happened, and then we rallied back and we joined the war and we beat the Jerrys and all that.
Yeah.
But he talks about how they were scared when it first happened. They were like, are we under attack? Are we at war? Do we have an army?
Yeah.
And it was Roosevelt getting on the radio. I think it's Roosevelt. I might be wrong. It's Roosevelt, right?
Yes.
That he got on the radio and lifted their spirits and joined them together and stuff. And Gordon realizing in that moment that himself and the other individuals would not have had the capacity to do what Roosevelt did in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's why you need people to take the reins. He's not talking about like people doing what I believe or doing what the enemy believes or what,
He's doing what's important.
Yeah. Someone is taking the reins, and that is what's more important. Is we just need someone to, with this fence-sitting mayor who's just like, oh, what do we do? Batman in this road, I think in this world, Miller is not saying Batman's good because he's a vigilante who beats up criminals and that we need him. And, I don't think he's saying that. I think he's saying the role of someone who just stands up and does something. And then...
I mean, to a lesser or greater degree, I think that's why the far right has such a stranglehold on the working class in the UK at the moment, because there is a problem in this country at the moment with wealth divide, and we are in the middle of an economic downturn. And then these far right figures, your Tommy Robinsons, are the only people standing up and saying, this is what's wrong with the country.
Yeah.
And
they're giving a narrative.
Exactly.
And that's what people want more than anything else.
And people want a narrative, and they want somebody to, they want
who do we blame? How do we fix this?
Yeah, they want something actionable that they can rally behind. And Tommy Robinson and figures like him are standing up and saying...
Farage, I'd say, is more encompassing of the entire right. Like, Robinson's like a far right extremist version of it. Farage is more like the mainstream right version of it.
But Tommy Robinson's standing up and saying it's the immigrants. And that's clearly wrong.
Yeah.
It's clearly wrong. And it's not what anyone should be believing.
But when the other side isn't giving you a narrative at all,
exactly,
what else are you going to do?
The far right are currently presenting the only believable, not even believable, but the only compelling narrative in this story. Because the actual truth is, it's a complex socio-political issue that needs to be resolved with taxation and better management of our funds and all of that stuff.
But mostly it's the billionaires, and the billionaires are funding the right who are blaming the immigrants, because the other side is the side who blames the billionaires.
Exactly.
And they're obviously not good. They don't want them to have any power.
The real solution isn't one that you can just strap a flag to a lamp pole for.
Yeah.
And I think that is really what I think the core of Batman is, which is that Batman is a billionaire who could fix the systemic problems in Gotham, but what he chooses to do instead is fight the disease without actually curing
so
it.
That is a complaint that has been absorbed by the modern Batman writers. So Bruce Wayne by day is an actual philanthropist who is like investing in the city and opening up orphanages and like doing the stuff,
fighting the
stuff
good
by
fight.
day. Yeah. And then Batman by night is like, but there are still some proper psychopaths and just corruption
that I need to deal with.
People who will make things worse, and I will stop them. That's actually a main point of the Batman film, the 2022 one with Robert Pattinson, is he's not using his Bruce Wayne persona at all. And then by the end, he kind of starts to realize, like, well, I can't just do this. And he's not even necessarily becoming like a proper Bruce Wayne. I think that'll happen in the second film. But in the first one...
Is there going to be another one?
Yeah. They got announced by director Matt Reeves that the antagonist of this one has never been in a Batman film before. So now there's huge speculation now. If someone's like, it's going to be Condiment King. Yes, finally. Who is literally a guy who has a ketchup and mustard guns. Finally, we're getting Condiment King. But yeah, in the end of that film, at the beginning, he's like, I will beat crime into submission, like, and I will make them fear me, and that's how it works. And then by the end of the film, spoilers for the Batman from 2022, he realizes that he actually can achieve more by being a symbol of hope, because then by the end he's rescuing people from this flooding that's happened because Riddler blew up the dams or whatever, and there's footage of him helping people out with it and stuff, and then seeing the reaction that people like, because before it was like, is there a bat monster in the sea who's like killing people?
No, it's fucking Batman.
But now they're like, oh, he's a hero, and that's when he realized, like, oh, I had the wrong idea when I started this, and now I'm seeing the different way to go about it. And I think that's going to be the plot of the second film, essentially. So the only other little bits, which I thought were very interesting, did you notice when Bruce Wayne... Little bits. And you'll like this one. Bruce Wayne near death, who does he speak to in his mind? Dick Grayson.
Oh, yeah, he does, doesn't he?
And what's really interesting, well, I thought this was fascinating. Something's happened, I can't remember if this gets addressed in the second half or not. Something's happened to Jason Todd, right?
Well, they say what happened, like, remember what happened to Jason.
So at the time when this came out, 86, Jason Todd was the active Robin for Batman. He was just... Right.
So they've killed Robin off without...
Exactly. Yeah. I had to check. I was like, oh, surely they killed Robin off and then this happened, and that's what Miller's referencing. No, Death in the Family, 88, so 2 years later.
Wow.
So he was the active Robin at the time, and Miller had maybe someone in DC Studios was like, hey, just, we might kill off Jason Todd in a couple of years, like, keep under your nose. And then Miller's like, I'll put it in. or it's just a coincidence that he was like, who's the Robin now? Jason Todd, the second one. He's like, a tragedy would be a good, like, maybe reason why he retired or something. So maybe it's just that coincidence. But I thought it was interesting where, even though Jason Todd is the one that something horrible has happened to, he's speaking to Dick Grayson in his head. And at this point, Dick Grayson was the son almost like the forgotten, because Dick Grayson left him and stopped being Robin. Like he didn't just graduate from Robin to Nightwing.
No, he stopped being a hero for a bit, didn't he?
He left Batman because their disagreement stuff. And then Batman was like, I've got a new Robin, actually. I found him nicking the tires of the Batmobile. So it's probably maybe not going to turn out great, but I've got one. And And the Batmobile is a big old tank in this, and that's cool.
Well, of course it is.
Yeah. So I think we've done as much as we can for the first half.
Excited for the second half.
Yeah.
Definitely go read it.
And I'll give you the clues of what the big thing is going to be. It's there's a scene where they're in the White House and Nixon's talking about how Batman's making them look bad, and it's zooming it. Well, I think it's Nixon. I don't think we're talking, but the panel. I thought this was great little, like just a little art like technique to tell the story. But it's zooming in on the American flag while Nixon's talking,
and then
he
turns
talks to
Superman.
Someone, and then the stripes of the flag, as it's zoomed in, turn into the stripes of red and yellow.
Does it become Batman v Superman?
Is
the second half of the Dark Knight Batman v Superman?
We'll see when we get there.
Dude, it's 40 years old. Is that what the next half is going to be?
That's the big thing in the
Dude! Oh, I'm so psyched for that.
It's the one that ruined the Batman-Superman discourse for decades afterwards.
Yeah.
Because people are like, well, if Batman has prep time, then he can take on anyone. Like, that's what was spurred by this comic.
Because he had prep time and he did take on Superman.
To give you a little preview into that before we get into it, Frank Miller writes Batman in this extremely well. Like, that's
how does he write Superman?
Really badly.
Really?
Well, the reason they're fighting in the first place. Like, Superman, we'll get into it in the
We'll
second half.
We'll get into it. Thank you so much for listening. We are, about a month into my paternity leave? I might be back soon, I might be not. Should we ADR in a little bit of very tired post-paternity Jamie here, just for the fun of it?
Here's a voice note that Jamie sent me via WhatsApp to say what's going on with him right now.
That guy sounds tired.
Yeah. I can't believe the baby grew up in 30 years within a couple of days and has come back from the future, and that's crazy.
I know, wild stuff.
I'm just trying to cover every base.
Absolutely, yeah. So thank you for listening. I have a child now, so please like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, and this was a really in-depth. I don't think you will get a Dark Knight Returns analysis to this level. Mostly it's just people like, I thought it was cool when Batman beat the people or whatever, not to shit on people within the same space that we're at. I'm just saying we're the best at it. No one's doing what we're doing, and that deserves...
Fucking hell, Ryan.
That deserves 5 stars at minimum. 5-star review at minimum.
DC, give us the Batman money.
Yes. And when Jamie recovers, there'll be a recording telling you what to do.
Cheers, bye.
And thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe to get notified of our future episodes as well. And if you're feeling particularly generous, then please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're using. If you'd like to get in contact with us, then send an email to comiclit@gmail.com. You can also watch videos by me on the Comic Stand YouTube page, which is linked in the description. Thank you, goodbye.